take off my jacket when I warm up a little.
Okay. Um, what relatives were you close to, and what part did they play in your life?
Oh, do I go first?
Sure.
Oh. I was closest to my mother's relatives in Baltimore, her Aunt Rose Shapiro, who was wonderful, who even took care of my mother when she was a baby, when my mother's mother was in a sanitarium and then died.
And how describe how that relative is related to you?
Oh,
How's Aunt Rose Shapiro related?
she was my mother's father's sister. She was my aunt. And Aunt Rose Shapiro and my other aunts, who we would visit, mostly Aunt Rose Shapiro because she was the wealthiest. And we would visit the other aunts who lived in homes with the white marble steps that they scrubbed every morning. And one aunt, Esther, I'll hurry up, Esther Pritzker, married a Pritzker, which is part of the Pritzker Hyatt Regency family, but they didn't have any money then. And she gave me a little tiny tea set that I never forgot from in her kitchen with a black and white marble floor and a great big marble table in the center of the room where she baked, kneaded the dough. Okay, and then my other aunts I visited, but my closest relatives were my Aunt Rose and Gerson Dorman, my mother's brother Gerson Dorman, and Dorman Electric, and their daughter Cheryl was my very best friend and cousin and like a sister for her whole life. And we would come over on Sundays and knock on their door, and they would open the door and say, "Oh, is it Sunday again?"
You mentioned the white marble steps. What part of Baltimore?
Downtown Baltimore, near Susan and Howard's new house.
So like the Canton area.
Yeah, and Broadway area, that area, they all had their white marble steps. And also, quickly, my cousin Cheryl and I were extremely close, and from the time we were 2 years old, we were like a year apart. And when it would be time to go home, for us to go back to Washington, she and I had this tradition where we'd pretend I couldn't leave, and we would hide behind the door, and we'd kiss and fall down, and pretend that we couldn't get up. So our parents had to drag me away and take me home. But she was my dearest. And my Uncle Gerson was good to me. My Aunt Rose was wonderful. She made the best chocolate cakes for me, and it was nice. They were very good to me.
Okay.
So that was that.
Okay. How about you, Norman?
We lived on Sequoia Avenue in Forest Park, Ashburton, whatever you want to call it, half block below the Garrison Junior High School. And my father's parents and his two bachelor brothers lived 7 doors down the street. And by the way, next to them was the Shavitzes. They had all come up from East Baltimore or South Baltimore in the early 1920s before we were born. And my older sister Selma and I were the only 2 grandchildren because my father's 2 older brothers, were not married. And they lived with their parents, Grandma Esther Shillman and Aaron. Esther was the matriarch of the family. She, not only with the immediate family, but also all of her relatives, when they came from Europe, they always stayed with Esther when she was living in South Baltimore. Anyway, they moved into Forest Park, where the general Jewish population was migrating in the 20s and 30s, etc. And every Friday night we had dinner at Grandma Esther's. She was a terrific cook. She was a terrific gardener. She was terrific at everything.
She made her own
But
wine.
she was the boss.
She
was the absolute boss. And it was a very close family. She and Grandpa Aaron would come up to the house, to our house occasionally during the week, talk to my mother. And those days you had a telephone, you had a party line, or you had sometimes you'd go to their house to use their phone or whatever it was. But we were the center of the universe. Sarah was 10 years younger than I was, so she came along much later. But everything was around their lives. And also Uncle Nathan had a boat in the summertime. That was usually our Sunday, sometimes Saturday, go out on the boat, go swimming off the boat, etc. And it was fun.
Great. And then tell us about visits to your family in well, Mom, you did in Baltimore. Anything
Yeah,
else
that's the
you
only
want to say?
place.
And Dad, about New York, visiting your mom's family.
Yeah, New York was a thrill to me. We would go there basically twice a year, once at Christmas time vacation, and once or twice in the summer to Rockaway Beach, which right outside New York City. Anyway, my mother was the middle of 5 children. She had 2 older sisters, then my mother, then brother Martin, and then the younger sister Hilda. And Grandpa Rosenman died when I was 5 years old. I basically remember him. He did quite well financially. He did quite well. They lived well. When he died, Grandma Rosenman, she did away with all the frills. She wanted a simple life. And my mother's 2 older sister got married just a year or 2 before she did. And the 3 oldest girls, all got pregnant at the same time. And all 3 had daughters within 3 weeks. So the 2 older sisters had daughters the same day, and my sister Selma was born 3 weeks later. So the 3 girls were all as close in age. I was a year younger, and some of the other grandchildren came along later. So going to New York, seeing the tall buildings and all the excitement, etc., was a big thrill for us. There was a lot going on. When you have close relatives your age, you really enjoy it.
Okay. Yes.
Oh, well, I forgot the part where we went to Bridgeport, Connecticut a couple of times because that's where my father was from. He was born in New York, but he grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And he had 4 sisters and 1 brother. There were 6 children, and they all had children. And we went up there. They owned a little house on the lake. So we would go up there, I think we did it twice. And we'd go to the lake and swim, and I almost drowned, and my father saved me. And I really didn't see my father's relatives much, but I remember Connecticut, and I remember that it's just interesting. We went to one bar mitzvah up there. It's where we all met Fran Lebowitz, who was the television curmudgeon, who always a complainer like I am, but I don't look like her. And she's my cousin. And it was a brilliant family, but like Daddy's family was. And
What happened to us?
anyway, so that's a story.
Okay. And then next is, tell us about the homes you lived in growing up and what were the addresses when you were...
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. The first real home I remember is when I was 4 years old. My father and mother proudly bought what was called a row house, not a townhouse, but it was an English Tudor row house. Brand new for $8,000, 132 Ingraham Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C. And it had 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. And it was a wonderful house. I can still smell the plaster walls. I love that house. And it had like a split staircase. You'd come down, and a little side of the stair would split into the kitchen, the other split into the living room. And it was a fun house. We had a big, very pretty recreation room where all the kids met in the summer. We all did plays and played down there and had a really good time. It was a lovely house. I really loved it. And it was fun because all the kids in the neighborhood, we play all summer together. There were row houses, but they were good size, big front porches, and it was fun.
And then you lived there until you were
And
how
then-
old?
I lived there until I was 15,
And then
almost
where'd you go?
16. Then we moved to 3564 Brandywine Street, over Connecticut Avenue way, a little fancier neighborhood. And that was a pretty nice house. Pretty nice house. And we lived there because I went to college when I was 16, so I didn't live there that long. But it was a very nice house, a very nice neighborhood, and we had fun. We had gorgeous magnolia trees and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, how many bedrooms and bathrooms
Oh,
did that have?
well, we had 3 bedrooms on one floor, and on the top floor was like an apartment for me, where I had my own bedroom and bath and a little study, but it's really like an attic room, but it was really, it's my apartment. and then and then that bathroom, and then 2 bathrooms on the 3-bedroom floor, and then a half bathroom and a den on the first floor, and then a full bathroom in the rec room. And it was a pretty nice house
And how long did your parents stay in that house?
till 1974 or 5. They stayed in that house at least 24 years, maybe. Is that right? About 24 years.
And then moved to.
They moved to an apartment building, and then
A place in Florida.
when they were in their late 50s, they bought an apartment in Pompano Beach, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach. So they went down there every winter from the time they were like late 50s, early 60s. They went every winter for 6 months. And Gay said they abandoned us.
Yeah, I know you really missed your mother.
Right. And Dad, what about you? The homes that you lived in growing up?
Lived in one house till I was married. 3819 Sequoia Avenue, good middle class suburban neighborhood. Bungalow, I guess you call it, 2-story. Big front porches because we didn't have air conditioning those days. We lived most of the summer on the porch, which is the whole front of the house and part of the side.
Yeah, it was nice.
Big awnings, etc. Everybody had the same thing, and garage was in the back, driveway to
We
the
had
side.
garages.
Upstairs we had 4 bedrooms, 1 bath. Later on, we put a bathroom up on the attic. There was a bathroom in the basement for the maid. Very comfortable house. I always thought it was very spacious, but when I go back in my later years to look at it, it looks like very small, but everybody lived the same. Then when I got married, Joy and I lived for the first 4 years in the apartments
Cross
on
Country Boulevard.
Cross Country Boulevard. What was the address? Do you remember?
No, something 30 something.
Right.
They're all 30 something.
Everything I lived in 4 dwellings, and they were all in the 3,000.
Yeah.
Then we went to Lightfoot Drive for 10 years. It was 3106 Lightfoot Drive. And then here on Kaiser Road, 3202. And we've been here 45 years. And this was an empty lot. I designed the house. I knew this was the neighborhood to come to and made the right choice.